we're looking at this logic puzzle here, and I'm going to give you all some time to try to think about it. So there are three people, Alex, Ben, and Cody, one of whom is a knight, right? One is a knave, and then we have another one who is a spy. All right. The knight always tells the truth, right? The knave always lies, right? So the knight always tells the truth. The knave always lies, and the spy can neither lie nor tell the truth. So in other words, the spy could, whatever he says could either be the truth or a lie. All right? Alex now says, Cody is a knave. Then Ben says, Alex is a knight. And Cody says, I am the spy. So based on this information here, who is the knight, who is the knave, and who is the spy? All right. You'll think about it for a few minutes, right? And see if you could try to figure out, well, do you think that Alex is the knight, Ben is the knight, or Cody? You know, which one of the individuals you think is the knight? Which one of those individuals you think is the knave, and which one you think is the spy? You know, you gotta remember, right? So the knight always tells the truth. Okay. You have to also remember the knave always tell a lie. And the spy, well, can either tell a lie or a truth, right? So anything he says could either be the truth or it could be a lie. Who do you think the knight is?
Ben?
Ben, okay, that's with Ben, right? So yeah, as a possibility. Anybody else? Who do you think the knight might be? Alex, Ben, or Cody?
Alex.
Alex.
So
So I feel
Alex.
it's Ben.
All right. Some people
So I feel like
some
Alex.
people feel it's Alex. All right, no problem, no problem. What about the knave? Who do you think the knave is?
Cody.
Cody.
Cody. All right, all right, all right. What about the spy? Who do you think the spy is?
Alex.
Alex. All right. So some people say Alex is the spy. Some people say Alex is the knight. Well, you know, all right, no problem. Well, what made you think about those answers? Like, for example, those who said Alex is the knight. Why you think Alex is the knight?
So I think Alex is because in the smaller passage it says Alex always says knight always says the truth. Or the knight
Right.
always tells the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben say Alex is the knight, so I think is the knight.
Okay. All right. All right.
So, but nobody says who Ben is.
All right. So let's look at it and see what the actual results is. Right. So this is the answer to this puzzle here. Alex. So who said Alex was the knight? Right. You're correct. Right? All right. Great. And who said Cody was the knave? You're correct. And who said Ben was the spy? You're correct. But let's look at the logic of it, right? So we know that Ben isn't telling the truth, because if he was, there would be two knights, right? Because Ben said he's a knight, right? And then somebody else claimed to be a knight, right? So Ben could either be the knave or the spy. So based on that, Ben could have either been the knave or the spy. Cody also can't be the knight, because then his statement would be a lie, right? So that must mean Alex is the knight. Ben, therefore, must be the spy, since the spy sometimes tells the truth, leaving Cody as the knave. All right, so let's look at another problem. This one might be more familiar to you, right? A farmer wants to cross a river and take with him a wolf, right? And a goat and a cabbage. He has a boat. But it can only fit himself plus either the wolf, the goat, or the cabbage. So, the boat could only hold two items, two people, one person and the cabbage, or one person and a wolf, and one person and a goat, right? So if the wolf and the goat are alone on the shore, the wolf will eat the goat. If the goat and the cabbage are alone on the shore, the goat will eat the cabbage. So how can the farmer bring the wolf, the goat, and the cabbage across the river without anything being eaten? I think about that for a second. So that should be
I
something
know
that
the
you all may.
answer.
Oh, you know the answer? All right, let me hear the answer.
He take the goat with him first because he wolf wouldn't eat the cabbage.
Okay.
And then afterwards, take the wolf and have the cabbage last.
All right. So you take the wolf and the and what do you do? You take the wolf and the what? The cabbage first,
No, he take the goat first
or the
and
goat
leave the
first?
cabbage with the wolf.
Okay. No, yeah, but then all right. Very good, very good. I
So
remember.
I think I know it.
All right. Go ahead. Tell me about it.
Um, I think the first step is to take the goat,
Mm-hmm.
right? But while he coming back for the wait, just now, I forget how I've state of my mind just now. Okay.
So I
Okay.
think I know.
So he take the goat, he carry it across, and then he go across for the cabbage, and
Mm-hmm.
then he bring back the goat, and he take the goat and the wolf with him, and carry three of them again, carry the two of them across.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he
what,
carried her. You know, our last piece.
well,
And
that's
she
what I'm
said,
saying.
Only
Only a
one
split
at a time.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and speak.
So
Yeah.
he can carry the goat. He can
Mm-hmm.
carry across the goat first,
Right.
and then leave him there, and then go back for the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when he dropped the wolf, now he carry back the goat. No, oh God, I don't know. It's
and he
something
said,
I hear it already, but I forget how to phrase it.
All right. I'm hearing a boy there trying to get in. You
um,
go ahead. Yeah.
So I think the farmer will just carry the goat, drop him
Right.
off,
Mm-hmm.
come back, bring the wolf,
Right.
and carry it and drop it off, and then go back for the cabbage and carry it with him.
But then the wolf will eat the goat because he leave
Very.
the
Oh,
goat and the wolf
Yeah,
there.
when he come back, he'll be eaten.
Yeah.
So somehow it is, but you have to carry back the goat to collect one of the items. I think that is what I remember. Or to pick up a next item from next side, you have to carry back the item then carry. Something like that. I remember it, but I forget it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I know what you're saying. All right. Well,
So
let's.
he takes the goat
So
over.
he could.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he just take the goat over, right? He returns. And he takes the wolf or the cabbage over and he carries them to the other side. Then he returns with the goat. And then he takes the cabbage or the wolf over after. And he returns and he takes the goat over.
Okay. That sounded a little closer to the thing. But then, if he remember, it's one at a time, right? So while he was taking the wolf first, right? What happens with the cabbage and the goat?
so I know what it is now.
Go
So
ahead.
Um, First you take the goat, you carry it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you leave it there, and you come back. You take
Mm-hmm.
up the wolf, you go with the wolf over there, you
Mm-hmm.
drop it off, take the goat, put
Mm-hmm.
it on the boat with him, go
Right.
back for the cabbage, drop the goat,
Mm-hmm.
take the cabbage and go back to the other side with the wolf
Right.
and drop it off,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go back for the goat and you carry it to the other side.
Excellent. That's sounding like, I mean,
so
that's
I
sounding.
was going
That's
on
how
to
I
say
like
that
it. Yeah,
Well, let's
that
check it out.
making
Let's
sense.
check it and see if that is indeed the answer. So let me see. Right. The ones. Right. So yeah. So you see the wolf and the goat and the boat and everything here, right? So let's see the answer now, right? So first, the farmer takes the goat across, right? Which is what you just said there, right? The farmer returns alone and then takes the wolf across, but then returns with the goat, right? Right. And then the farmer takes the cabbage across, leaving it with the wolf, and then return alone to get the goat. So yes. So you see what you said was exactly the correct answer, right? So you should be proud of
Yes,
yourself,
sir.
right? Because you were able to logically come up with a plan to solve this thing here, right? That is excellent. So let's do a quick poll now. So right, so today's question is, what do you think today's class is about, right? What do you think today's class is about, right? So that's the question. What do you think we're going to talk about today in class? All right, so I'm seeing some responses coming in here. I'm seeing about solving riddles. All right, okay. I'm seeing puzzles and riddles. I'm seeing logical thinking. I'm seeing logical problem solving. Then I'm seeing problem solving. and I'm seeing worded problem solving, right? But now I'm seeing problem solving and wording problem solving pretty much dominating the whole system, right? Right, good. So I'm going to stop the poll now. But
Yes,
you
sir.
were correct, right? So based on the poll, the majority of you spoke about problem solving. The class today is about introduction to computational thinking. And you may tell yourself, well, what is that? I thought we said problem solving, but it is problem solving, right? But computational thinking is a mindset, is strategies to solve problem is what computational thinking is about, right? So the skills that you will learn in computational thinking is not only for computer science, right? It's basically for any kind of problems, right? As you saw with with the examples we looked at today, was basically logic problems. Had nothing to do with computer science. However, you'll see that it's sort of tied into the computer science as well, right? You'll see that hopefully by the end of the class, you could recognize that the computational thinking is related to computer science. So computational thinking deals with finding a way to solve a complex problems, or finding ways to make complex problems easier. And given the example, didn't you find the problems seemed a bit complex in the beginning, and trying to solve it, seemed to be difficult? How many of you all find that the problems that we looked at were easy to solve, or it required a little bit of thinking?
So it required a little bit of thinking.
A little bit of thinking.
Right, exactly. And this is the thing with problems on a general sense, right? Sometimes you have problems that you sit there and you wonder, well, what is the solution to this problem? And then somebody else will come and solve it, and make it look easy, right? But it's because they're using a type of a strategy, in terms of solving the problem, right, to make it easier, right? So the steps to computational thinking. Computational thinking has four major steps, right? Decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, and algorithmic thinking. So what we're going to do is look at each one of these um, steps in it, and sort of talk about them, and figure out what each step is about. So decomposition. So what is that about? Anybody could tell me what you think that word decomposition means, or what you think it means?
Actually, sir,
You know.
it's like, so when you have a problem,
Mhm.
you break it down into smaller parts, so it'll be easier to manage.
Very good. That's exactly what decomposition is about, right? So it's just a big word for saying that you could break a problem down into smaller components. So when you are faced with a problem, right, a complex problem, you have to say, well, here what, the only way I could solve this problem is by looking for a way to decompose this problem, break it up into smaller, more manageable problems, and then focus on those smaller parts, right? But in breaking up the problem, you have to there's a way, there's a logical way, you can't just break up a problem. It has to be broken up in a way that it could then be reconstituted, it could then be put together to make up the whole problem. Okay, there's a way to break up problems, and it's referred to as a divide and conquer approach to problem solving, right? Divide and conquer. So the divide and conquer approach is to repeatedly split a large problem into a number of smaller subproblems until a complete solution is identified. For example, and we like to use simple examples for now, right? Things that you could relate to, right? So even though we are studying computer science, we're looking at the methods, and we apply the methods, the computer science methods, to everyday problems. So you will be able to understand the methods. And it's only when you understand and you could draw the reference to something that you already are familiar with, is then you could take that methodology, right, and apply it to, let's say, a computer science problem. So later on in the term, we will be using, the methodologies and the methods that we learn from computational thinking and problem solving to solve computer science problems. All right. So this is why I'm using this example here today, which is how to build a bicycle. Now, let's assume that we know how to build a bicycle, right? So a bicycle has basically simple components, so therefore we could see the logic of how that will work, right? So we divide the steps into smaller, more manageable sub-problems. For example, we get the frame of the bike. Then in this case, we say build the wheels and tires, but we all know, building the wheels and tires is simply taking the tire and putting it onto the what you'll call the rim and filling it up with air, right? So we assume that's what they mean by build the wheels and tires. Then we'll make the brakes and the cable. So making the brakes and the cable is just taking the components, the brake components, and just putting them together and attaching the cables. Making the chain and the cogs. The cogs are the gear wheels, right? So we take the gear wheels, snap them together, snap on the chain. So that's what we talk about here, right? Then we get the handlebars and we put it on, and then we assemble complete bike. So I want you to get a feel in your mind as to what this process of building the bicycle would look like, right? So you think about it in your mind. If you have to build a bicycle, these would be the steps. So we assume that these are the correct steps, right? And let's say we don't know anything about building bikes. We use these instructions here. We say, okay, well, the first thing we need to do is get a frame. So we should be able to know, what the frame looks like. So, before we actually do this, we may have to sort of get an understanding of what is a bike frame, what does it look like. Then we say, okay, what is the process involved in building the wheels and stuff? How do we assemble the brakes? How do we assemble the chain and the cogs? Get the handlebars, right? And what do we do with the handlebars after that? And then we assemble complete bike. Now, this is the breakdown, right, of a big problem, which is assemble a complete bicycle. This last part here, assemble a complete bicycle. So if somebody tells you, I would like you to assemble a complete bicycle, right? You probably will be confused. You'll be like, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. How do I complete a complete bicycle? Especially if they bring a box of bicycle parts and they drop it on your lap and they tell you assembly complete bicycle. You'll be confused. So what you have to do, or the person who is giving you the instructions will have to divide and conquer, decompose this problem of assembling the complete bicycle into smaller, more manageable sub-problems. And this is what was done here. It says, well, okay, so the assembling of the bike requires 1, get a frame, 2, build the wheels and tires, 3, make brakes and cables, 4, make chain and cogs, and 5, get handlebars, and 6, just to assemble. So then it becomes a little bit clearer to you. So then you could say, okay, well, this seems to be a little bit clearer. However, the problem or the process is not complete, because remember we said you have to repeatedly split the large problem into a number of smaller sub-problems, right? So then we could now examine each one separately. We say, okay, let's look at get a frame, right? And what is the process involved in getting a frame? There may be a number of questions. What color is the frame? What do I, where do I get the frame from? What do I do with the frame once I get it? I may have to mount it on some kind of jig or something like that to be able to. So this is where you now look at each problem, each sub-problem, and then further break it up into steps, right? Into smaller steps. Decomposition is not just a one-time thing, right? You decompose as many times as you possibly can, to ensure you reach the smallest level, and then that will then be decomposed into some finite steps. All right. So just to illustrate again, right? I'm going to use like a different example. And this is where we'll try to bring it into the realm of computer science, right? All right. We know what a computer looks like, right? This is a typical computer, right? Not all computers would look like this, right? Some of them would be laptops, but this is what you would refer to as a desktop computer. But one thing we could agree on is that the computer has Windows running on it, right? And we know that Windows is referred to as an operating system. And inside of Windows, you will have a number of applications running inside of it. Okay, so Windows, when normally when you buy a computer, it has Windows. Sometimes it comes with additional applications, and sometimes you have to download and install applications. Same thing with your phone, right? So your cell phone or your tablet works very similar to how a computer works, except that the operating system is not Windows. Could anybody tell me what the operating system for their cell phone is?
Android.
Very good. Android, right? And with Android, if I does anyone know what is the process for installing an app or an application on their Android smartphone or tablet?
Play Store.
Very good. So you go to the Play Store, and the Play Store is an online platform where they store these apps, right? And you simply go select install, right? Download and install, and voila, it will end up on your device. Now, with desktop computers is a little bit different. There's no Play Store for apps, right? So what you do, you could download from certain websites, download it and then install it, or you could get something like a DVD and install it. But it's while it's a little bit different, it's similar, right? In what you have to do. The operating system and the application software, all of these are known as programs or software. Okay, you refer to them as programs, or you could call them software. So whether it's an operating system or an application program or an app, right, they are all classified as programs or software. So if your problem, right, let's say for instance, you have a problem to design an app, right? That's your problem, design an app, right? You have to use the functional decomposition or the decomposition methodology and decide, well, what is the process in designing an app? Okay, and break it down into smaller components. All right. So we know apps, right? Because it's programs and software, and because they run in, they operate very similar to the operating system in terms of how they function and so forth. Some of the things that apps and operating systems have in common are these things here: windows, icons, menus, and pointers, right? So you could tell yourself, well, wait, I could then, if I know that apps have all of these things, right, or programs, then I could say, well, all right, I could break them down into windows, icons, menus, and pointers, right, and other utilities. So I could say, right, well, I've broken my larger problem, create an app, right, into smaller components. And I could say, I will now focus, look at how to design windows, how to design icons, how to design menus, how to design pointers, and how to design utilities. I could look at each component now individually, right? So I could then say, well, let's examine how to design windows, right? And we all know, right, as I said before, that each one of those things are programs, right? So then we look at programs and we say, well, what constitutes a program? So we realize, well, programs will have things like um, input statements, processing statements, output statements, right? It will involve step-by-step instructions, which is called sequencing. It would involve selection statements, which is like if then else statements, and it will involve repetition or looping, right? So you could see now how, the building of the bike, all right, how you have to take the different components. And then when you look at each stage in the bike assembly thing, you have to go in now and see, well, what exactly is required in that. Same thing in building apps and so forth, or computer programming. You break down the large problem into smaller subcomponents, and then you look at the individual subcomponent to see what exactly is required. That now would become your focus. Your focus now will become just dealing with one program. It is a team that is working on developing an app. You as an individual be working on one part of the app, whereas another person will be working on another part of the app. However, each part involves exactly the same type of steps. Okay, so then you'll realize, but wait, this is all I have to work on. And so this problem is not a very difficult problem because this is all I have to do. Pattern recognition and abstraction, because you notice, as I said, similarities, right? Similarities in the different components. Right? So you will realize that problems will, even though they are different, there are similarities in structure and so forth. So in this problem, which was here, we drill down further into this problem, and we'll see different subcomponents, but the subcomponents are similar in structure, right? The only difference here is the color, right? And the color signifies that it's just the inner workings and the functionality. What the function of the different component of the app is doing is different, but the structure, shape, and everything is the same. Okay. Likewise for like the other problems here, you'll have the same type of scenario. So that is pattern recognition. You develop a pattern, you realize there are many patterns. Patterns mean similarities in different things, right? Sound like an oxymoron, similarity in different things, but you have different components, but they are very similar, right? And that's where the pattern recognition takes place. So therefore, you could then, once you have a pattern, you could duplicate the pattern and just modify accordingly, and it makes the design process a lot easier. So it makes, you know, when you talk about reinventing the wheel, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You realize there are things that that's being done before, right? Using prior knowledge, and you just utilize that. So you're building on existing knowledge, and this is how technology is able to expand at an exponential rate, because people don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. When somebody invents something, they leave all the information there. Somebody else look at it, and then they modify, they improve on it, and that's how you go. So you find, you know, technology will then advance because you don't have to start back from the basics, you know, from scratch. So what is the 4 steps to computational thinking? Anybody could tell me what are the 4 steps to computational thinking?
Decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithmic thinking.
All right. So far we looked at decomposition, pattern recognition, and abstraction. So what exactly is decomposition? Could anybody tell me what do you think decomposition is?
When you're analyzing,
Decomposition is when when you're analyzing the issue or the problem.
Okay. Well, you have to do that, but the main part of decomposition is what?
It's breaking down the problem into smaller steps.
Very good. That's the main part. So you break it down. So yes, you have to analyze it. You have to analyze it in the sense that you have to try to get an understanding of the problem. And once you understand the problem, then you could decompose it into individual components, right? What is pattern recognition?
That's when you recognize the similarities.
Right. So I think you understand both pattern recognition and you understand the abstraction. Abstraction is where you're focused on that one task without thinking about anything else, right? You focus on your, let's look at now before the end of class, algorithmic thinking. Anybody have any ideas of what do you think algorithmic thinking is about?
It is a list of steps that you will use to follow the task.
Very good. A list of steps. We look at the bicycle problem, right? Right. Let's look at it briefly, right? What you will notice, right, about this, right, is that the steps are sequenced. They don't just give you the steps, they number the steps. So by numbering the steps, you know which step has to go first, which one next, which one third, and so forth. Now, in algorithmic thinking, you have to be very specific. Like, for example, in this particular steps, it's too vague. When they say get a frame, there are too many questions, right, that follow. For example, get a frame. What color is the frame? Where will I find the frame? You know, what frame goes where and things like that, right? So you cannot write steps and there's a lot of ambiguity or questions to be asked. You have to then drill down and come up with the steps. So you have to be very specific. So you have to say, get a red frame, or get a frame that is designed for the, that you probably have a name, so get this frame, then take this frame and do something with it, place the frame here. So you have to be very, very specific, right? And this is what algorithmic thinking is about. And the steps must be so organized that don't add to confusion, right? You follow it exactly as it is, and you're going to get the same result all the time. And when you write a proper algorithm, the results will always be consistent, it will always be accurate, and so forth. And this is what we're going to look at next class. We're going to look at writing algorithms, right? How we do that, right? How we write algorithms. Look at the steps in writing algorithms, the process involved in writing algorithms, and so forth.